ChatGPT can help you sound sharper in an interview. It can also make you sound like you memorized a corporate press release. The difference is how you practice. If you ask ChatGPT to write perfect answers and then memorize them, you may sound polished but disconnected from your own experience. The moment an interviewer interrupts, changes the question, or asks for a missing detail, the answer falls apart. A better approach is to use ChatGPT as a demanding practice partner. Let it test your recall, challenge vague claims, and ask uncomfortable follow-up questions. The goal is not to remember every sentence. It is to remember the logic of your answer. Start with the job description, not a random list of common interview questions. A customer success manager, financial analyst, and operations coordinator might all hear, "Tell me about a difficult problem you solved." But the evidence each employer wants will be different. One may care about customer retention. Another may care about forecasting accuracy. Another may care about process delays. Paste the job description into ChatGPT and add a short evidence bank from your experience. Your evidence bank can include projects, difficult situations, improvements, mistakes, customer problems, leadership examples, and measurable results. These do not need to be beautifully written. Rough notes are better than invented polish. Then give ChatGPT this instruction. I am preparing for an interview for this role. Review the job description and identify the 5 capabilities the employer is most likely to test. Use only the information in the job description. Then review my experience notes and show me which examples could prove each capability. Flag any important capability for which I do not yet have convincing evidence. That final sentence matters. Most people ask AI to make their experience sound impressive. They do not ask it to expose what is missing. If the role repeatedly mentions influencing stakeholders, but all your examples focus on completing individual tasks, that is a preparation gap. You may need to remember a better example, or you may need to explain how you communicated, gained agreement, or handled resistance within an existing example. Next, move from answer writing to pressure practice. Use a voice conversation if you can, because typing gives you too much time to edit. Ask ChatGPT to act as the hiring manager. Ask one question at a time and wait for your spoken answer. Tell it not to show you the questions in advance. You can use this instruction. Interview me for this position. Ask one question at a time and do not tell me what is coming next. Include behavioral, situational, and role-specific questions. After each answer, ask one realistic follow-up before giving feedback. If I make a vague claim, ask me for an example, a decision, or a result. This creates the kind of productive pressure that a document full of prepared answers cannot create. You have to retrieve the right example, organize it, and explain it while someone is waiting. If practical career advice like this is useful, subscribe. The aim here is to make every part of the job search more specific, more human, and easier to apply. Now let's fix the biggest weakness in AI-assisted interview answers. They often sound competent without proving anything. Here is a weak answer to a question about improving a process. I identified inefficiencies in the workflow and collaborated with key stakeholders to implement a streamlined solution that improved productivity. It sounds professional, but the interviewer still does not know what the person noticed, what they changed, or whether the change worked. A stronger version might sound like this. Our support team was manually copying customer issues into a weekly spreadsheet, and it took about 2 hours every Friday. I created a simpler intake form with consistent categories, tested it with 2 team members, and adjusted it based on their feedback. That reduced the weekly admin work to about 30 minutes and made recurring issues easier to spot. The stronger answer is not better because it uses fancier language. It is better because the interviewer can see the problem, the action, and the result. When you practice, ask ChatGPT to identify vague words in your answer. Words such as helped, supported, optimized, collaborated, and improved are not automatically bad. They become weak when you cannot explain what you personally did. Have ChatGPT challenge each vague claim with simple questions. What did you actually do? What decision did you make? Who disagreed? How did you know it worked? What would have happened if you had done nothing? Those follow-ups turn a generic story into usable evidence. You also need a flexible structure. For most experience-based questions, remember 4 anchors. What was happening? What made it difficult? What did you do? What changed, or what did you learn? Notice that these are anchors, not sentences. You should be able to tell the same story in different words each time. One useful exercise is to answer the same question 3 times. Give a 90-second answer first, then explain it in 45 seconds. Finally, tell it again as if you were speaking to a colleague rather than delivering a presentation. If all three versions use almost exactly the same wording, you are probably memorizing lines. If the wording changes, but the important facts remain stable, you understand the story. You can make this harder by asking ChatGPT to interrupt. Tell it to stop you when you have been speaking too long, when the answer no longer matches the question, or when important context is missing. Real interviewers may interrupt because they have limited time or need clarification. Practicing only uninterrupted answers leaves you unprepared for that moment. The next step is critique against the actual role. After a practice answer, use this instruction. Evaluate my answer against the job description. Assess relevance, specificity, ownership, structure, and natural delivery. Quote the parts of my answer that are vague or unsupported. Tell me what an interviewer may still doubt. Do not rewrite the answer yet, and do not add achievements or details that I did not provide. That last restriction prevents a common problem. ChatGPT may produce an excellent sentence containing a detail that is not true. A more impressive answer is useless if you cannot defend it. Read the critique and improve only the weak section. If your result is unclear, add evidence. If your role is unclear, explain your contribution. If the opening is too long, shorten the setup. Do not replace the entire answer every time. Constant full rewrites can slowly turn your story into language you would never naturally use. This is especially important for "tell me about yourself." A weak AI-style opening might be, "I am a results-driven professional with a proven track record of leveraging cross-functional collaboration to deliver strategic outcomes." A stronger version would be, "I have spent the last 4 years in customer support and onboarding, mainly helping small business clients adopt new software. In my current role, I noticed that I am strongest when I am translating technical problems into clear next steps. I am now looking for a customer success role where I can do more of that work while taking greater ownership of adoption and retention." The stronger version gives the interviewer a clear past, a believable strength, and a reason for the move. It also uses words a real person could comfortably say. Before keeping any sentence suggested by ChatGPT, ask yourself 3 questions. Would I say this to a former colleague? Can I explain every claim if challenged? Does this contain language I understand but never actually use? If it fails one of those tests, rewrite it in your own vocabulary. You should also practice unpredictable follow-ups. Ask ChatGPT to challenge one answer from several angles. It might ask what you would do differently, how another person viewed the situation, why you chose that approach, or how the example relates to the new role. This reveals whether you know the experience or only know your summary of it. For example, you may have memorized a neat story about resolving a disagreement. Then the interviewer asks, "What part of the conflict was your fault?" That question is not looking for the next section of a standard formula. It is testing self-awareness. A useful answer might begin, "I initially treated the delay as an execution problem, but I had not confirmed that both teams agreed on the priority. Once I recognized that, I changed how I handled the conversation." That sounds human because it includes judgment, not just success. Be careful with company research as well. ChatGPT can help you organize information and generate questions, but it can make mistakes. Verify important claims about the employer, role, products, and recent events using reliable sources. You do not want to confidently mention an initiative that does not exist. Protect sensitive information when sharing your experience. Remove customer names, confidential figures, private employee details, and internal documents. If you want additional privacy controls, review ChatGPT's data settings or use a temporary chat. Even then, the simplest rule is not to paste information you are not authorized to share. A focused practice session can be short. Spend a few minutes identifying what the job description is testing. Answer several questions aloud. Let ChatGPT ask follow-ups. Then review only the 2 biggest weaknesses, such as missing evidence or answers that run too long. Do another session later with a different order of questions. Changing the order matters because it forces you to retrieve examples rather than recite a sequence. By the end, you should not have 15 perfect speeches. You should have a small collection of true, flexible stories. You should know which capability each story proves, which details make it credible, and which follow-up questions could expose a gap. That is the rule to remember. Rehearse your logic, not your lines. Use ChatGPT to create pressure, demand specificity, and test your evidence. Then walk into the interview sounding prepared, but still sounding like yourself. If you have an interview question you struggle to answer, leave it in the comments. You can also suggest the next job search topic you want explained.